The purpose of this town hall is to have a discussion about the implementation of AB 15 in the second extraordinary session of the legislature. The law is known as the End of Life Options Act. Last October, Governor Brown signed the End of Life Options Act into law. This town hall is not to discuss whether the act is a good idea or whether or not it should become law. The issue has already been decided, and I was proud to vote for the bill. Our purpose this evening is to discuss what the law does, when it will take effect, and how it will be implemented. Compassion and Choices is the nonprofit organization that sponsored the End of Life Options Act. They have been very helpful in putting this town hall together, and I want to thank them for their collaborative effort in helping assemble this panel and getting information to the public.
So it has to be if you have a terminal diagnosis from which no cure is expected, a physician verifies that, you are found to be in sound mind, capacity in order to make your own decisions, then you are referred to a second physician who also makes a determination, and then you have to put it into writing some 15 days later. So there are multiple steps that people have to go through before they're able to get the prescription. The studies, what we know from Oregon is a lot of people who get it, never even use it. It's just the comfort of knowing it's there. And for me, I mean, a lot of people advocate for different reasons. For me, I just really hope that this helps us all have a conversation again about end of life, what we want, what we don't want. How do we want to be remembered? How do we want our last days to be? What do we want our final gift to our families to be?
What we know is that when we go into the physician's office and we say, you know what, maybe this isn't an option that I'm interested in today, but one day I might be, and I want to get a read from you on it, and I want to start this long conversation that we might have to have where you learn about my values and I learn about your values, and maybe we're both a little bit vulnerable. That then when you get to that point down the road where you're ready to make this decision, that level of trust has been built. We don't want is for anybody to lack access to this because one, they waited too long or they didn't know it was available, or two, if they were a physician or a caregiver because they didn't have the education necessary or they didn't know where to turn.
People wanted to make sure it was a safe law and wanted to make sure it does what the people of California need. So it's I'm very happy to see the momentum continue both in California and across the country. And now what we have to do, we have a great law in place, but now we have to push our healthcare systems to actually create the kind of policies where they're going to provide the service to people who need it. And so all their doctors can talk to folks about it.
I think it's important for us to do everything we can to help doctors understand the benefits and the requirements of this type of legislation in terms of assessing the patient's mental capacity and offering them other alternatives relative to end-of-life care. I think that we all have stories of friends that have had painful or deaths involved with more suffering than we thought was necessary, and I think this bill goes a long way to help us deal with those situations.
Turns out not many of us get out of stage 4 cancer alive. It's not something that anybody ever wants to look at or deal with. I had a 15-year-old child at the time. I am my parents' primary caregivers. Sorry, I don't know why I got so emotional. But it was something that I knew right off the bat that I wasn't going to go through an extended dying process that not only made my last days, weeks, or months horrible, but that would also further traumatize my family, particularly my son. When I was diagnosed, I was given only 18 months to live. Blessedly, we've far surpassed that, and so I am eminently grateful for the treatment, the heroics, the mind-numbing drugs that they give us. They had never talked to me about dying up until, fairly far into my the process. And finally I realized that, I got a 15-year-old kid. What am I looking at? And so I went into my doctor and I said, am I looking at a bad year or do I need to make plans for my son? And that's what they told me. They said, make plans for your son. We'd estimate 18 months.
This was an issue that was also a journey for me, like so many other colleagues of mine, that we went on over the course of the last year as we learned about this issue and considered this legislation. And as I stated, in the beginning, I was very proud to vote for this bill. And the way that members of the community reached out to me over the course of that past year really showed me how people felt about this, that it really touched everyone in a unique way.